The Florida Project. It's a film that came out earlier this year in the UK. I've only just gotten the chance to see it. It's by the same director that did Tangerine, and I can't remember if I ever posted a review of Tangerine on the channel or even talked about it on a podcast, but I really, really did not like Tangerine. If you don't know what I mean just by the title, it was the film that went around about 2 years ago where it was shot entirely on an iPhone, which obviously led to a lot of like hot takes on is this a gimmick, is it not? Spoiler, I think it was, and it still is, I believe. But also as well as that, a lot of people talked about how it was representing, a certain community in LA, and that was a very positive factor for a lot of people. But I just thought it was an awful film through and through. I really, really did not like it, and so I was not looking forward to seeing the Florida Project. When the good reviews started coming through for it, I thought, yeah, but these are the same people that like Tangerine, and I really did not like Tangerine. And so, yeah, I was thinking about just dropping it completely, but there were so many positive reviews that I just thought, you know what, I will give it a shot. And I'm really glad that I did because I really enjoyed it. It was such a turnaround for the director, in my eyes anyway. It took his style and made it, I think it just made it more empathetic, and it made it less massively irritating all the time and in your face, and it contextualized a lot of the way that people are in his films. To give a basic plot synopsis, it follows a little girl that lives in a motel based in Florida. It's kind of around the theme park area, so people do mainly live in the motels, but it is, and they are all theme park themed. Like the one that she stays in is a purple castle, and her friend stays in one that's based roughly on like Space Mountain. And there are residents, but mainly it's people that are staying there for cheap and then going into Disney as opposed to staying at the Disney parks. It's an area that I've actually experienced before because of going to Florida, and it was quite fun getting to watch it and seeing like the little kids walk by shops that I've actually been in, and just seeing a different side of an area as opposed to just the touristy area, which is obviously what I experienced. I'll talk about like the positive aspects of it, like of the film on its own in a sec, but I just want to talk about where it is in the context for me, because I think that it showed me like two things, which is one, it showed me a massive improvement on the style from Tangerine. As I said, I found Tangerine a very irritating experience because I hesitate to say unlikable characters because like you have anti-heroes and all of that, but it was that they took a very obnoxious character and they just kept it going through the entire film without much change, and it didn't seem like the purpose of it was that she wasn't changing, and at the end it didn't really seem to offer anything about her. It was just sort of, here's a wacky day. Again, this was about 2 years ago now that I've seen it, so maybe I'll have a different opinion on it now, but also I remember it just being very badly made, even for the iPhone. Like, it was just poorly edited, and I just found it very obnoxious, not just in the characters, but also in the filmmaking and the message it was giving. This was just, like I said, just a massive improvement. It gave a lot more heart to everything he was saying, and it still has the obnoxious characters, but like I said, it puts them in a much more empathetic situation, and it still gives you something to root for them, but you know that they're gonna fuck it up because that's who they are. And the second point was that I think must have been last year now, was American Honey was released, from the director of Fish Tank, Andrea Arnold, and I really liked Fish Tank. And American Honey was a big disappointment for me. It was very slow. It was pretty, but it was very slow, very, very repetitive, and it did not. I think it got its point across, but I think it just bashed you over the head with it, and to the point where you were like in a daze because you were so fed up of it. And this, I think, it conveyed it. It didn't do the whole road trip aspect, but it conveyed exactly what Andrea Arnold was trying to show in that film, and I think it did it better, and I think it did it with more heart, and it doesn't have as many of the thuggish characters, but I think that it does stuff that's a bit more affecting because it stays closer to the kids, and because it shows how the people are still trying to make it work. They're not just ditching all of their problems and running away, which I think was always an aspect of American Honey, which kind of led to a distance from the main character. That was too long spent talking about other films. But I don't know, it's not that I'm trying to talk around the Florida Project like there's anything to spoil. It's exactly what it says on the tin. Like, it is just, I suppose, as you could sort of call it like a slice of life film, but there is a narrative going through it. Every single character was really well done. I really the kids were brilliant in it, especially for being so young. The kids were really brilliant in it. They felt very natural in front of the camera. I think maybe it's like it's just the right age before they get too aware of what the cameras are doing. The kids were brilliant, and not just in the way that you can tell that there was direction a lot of the time, but it never felt like unnatural. And at the same time, there were also moments where you can definitely tell that was improv because they're just being natural kids, and it made it so much more enjoyable experience. It made it so much more fun. And I think if you don't like kids, you might not like this because it is just kids being kids, like not just movie children where they're perfect and they say they say very cute things and that's it, and they just look at you with deer eyes. Like, it's also the horrible side of kids as well, and I liked that because I found that rather charming. Willem Dafoe's manager character was just very nice to watch. I don't think that there wasn't any great depth to him, I'll admit to that, but they do try to give him a bit more of a side story to things, but it's more just about how he's basically a father figure for essentially a whole building worth of tenants, and the escapades that the mum gets through trying to get money to further her lifestyle is a rather entertaining part of the film, and you see the kid slowly like seeing what her mother does, and I thought the mum was great. Like, both the adults had really great chemistry with the kids. Yeah, visually as well. Obviously, it was a massive step up because it was no longer on an iPhone. Now this one is shot on film, I believe. It made me like his style much more when it wasn't, like, the highlights weren't blown out disgustingly, it wasn't awfully colour corrected. It just made me appreciate his style a lot more, and I think that the purple, like, stylized castle motel added a lot to the enjoyment of things, genuinely. I think it just made it feel so like it was all part of one experience, and I really liked that. And he really likes the anamorphic wide shots, like the kind where if a character's walking in front of a building, you'll see the whole front side of the building, and it's such a wide shot that you see, like, the edges of the building are curved. That was something that they were going for in Tangerine, but it was very false to me because they put anamorphic filters on top of the iPhone lenses, and as well as all, like I said, the highlights and all that. On this, I think it just added to the kind of childlike atmosphere of everything, and I think it really helped represent the place, actually, I thought. And I'm normally someone that's really against these warped wide shots, but I think it sold the experience on this one. My only final point is probably the very, very ending, which would be hard to talk about without spoiling it. But basically, they massively changed styles in, like, the last minute, and I did not like that. It felt like they didn't really have an ending in mind, and so they just thought, this'll do. It felt like it was leading up to a proper ending and then just kind of went. I don't think it was enough to sour the experience of the film at all. I just think that it was just missing that, cherry on the cake. On the cake? Yeah, that's a saying. Yeah. It was just missing that extra, like, final oomph of an ending. I think that was an even stronger hit because of that stylistic change at the end, which I think was very noticeable. Obviously, they knew it was noticeable, but I think that they could have found a way to make it more impactful and at the same time keep the stylistic quality that they maintained throughout the entire film. I really don't have that much to say. I mean, I know I've blathered on for quite a while, but I mean, I don't have that much to say about the actual film itself. It's just a very enjoyable film. I had quite a bit of fun watching it. All the characters were great. Again, I'm just repeating points, but those kids were really, really great. They were really something. They felt like they were genuinely reacting to things, which is, I think, the hardest thing to get a child to do, is to, like, get them to react to something a second time. I think that the director really came into his own style on this one, and I'd definitely be looking forward to whatever he makes next now. Whereas before, like Tangerine, like I said, I could really, this film's made me consider watching it again, but to be honest, I know how much I disliked it. I don't think that will change massively. Great, thank you very much for watching. I'm trying to put more reviews back up on the channel again. Trying being the optimal word. Podcasts also going to be changing, but they are up on the channel as usual.